What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Lakers Outsiders Weekly Podcast. I am your host, Gary Kester, and today we are going to be talking about the latest news with the Los Angeles Lakers, a big one, one that back in 2013 I didn't think we'd ever see happen, but here we are. The Los Angeles Lakers and Dwight Howard have come to an agreement, and Dwight Howard will start his second stint with the Los Angeles Lakers. Cannot believe I've said that in the year 2019, but it's happening. It's real, and we're going to talk about it. The way this pod is going to go, I am going to, because I'm a little more optimistic about this than I think most people are. But I do also have some concerns. I share some similar concerns that I think a lot of people have, but I'm not as down on this signing as a lot of Laker fans are. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But before I dive in, just make sure that you subscribe to this channel. This is Lakers Outsiders Weekly Podcast with UCast Studios. So make sure you subscribe to UCast Studios, like this video, comment, subscribe, all that. Do the same to Lakers Outsiders, and you can find Lakers Outsiders content everywhere on Twitter, Facebook, and of course YouTube, iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, and of course on LakersOutsiders.com. So just make sure you're locked in, you're subscribed, and you're ready to catch all the latest Lakers content. So okay, let's dive into this topic because it's a big one. It's a big one. It's a weird one. I don't know what it is about the last week or so. Very strange sports stories. Kind of feels like, especially the two that jump out are the um, the Dwight Howard signing with the Lakers and then Andrew Luck retiring out of nowhere yesterday on Saturday, and I'm recording this on Sunday. Um, but yeah, let's dive in. Let's talk about this. Dwight Howard is going to be brought in to, according to reports, to replace DeMarcus Cousins, who will miss the upcoming season due to the torn ACL injury, which I talked about in the last episode. Um, it's crazy. I mean, really, this is just bizarre. After the way the 2012-2013 NBA season for the Lakers panned out with so many injuries and such high expectations going into that season, and it really flamed out. I mean, the Lakers squeaked their way into the playoffs thanks to Kobe just going crazy before he suffered the torn Achilles injury, and really, I mean, kind of started the downfall of the end of his career. And then, during that summer, obviously Dwight Howard left to sign with the Houston Rockets, and him departing along with Kobe's injury, and it just triggered a mess for the Lakers, and they've really been reeling ever since. And they haven't made it to the playoffs since that year that they snuck in as the seventh seed that year. They would get swept by the San Antonio Spurs because they were just decimated by injury at that point. But Dwight Howard is back, and I like I said, I really can't process that that's a real thing. Like, I never thought that this would happen. But okay, so I'm going to talk about my concerns first, and then I'll end on a positive note and why I think this could be a good thing for the Lakers. So a lot of Laker fans are very upset at this signing, and I totally understand why. A lot of Laker fans, I think, are still very bitter about how things panned out the first time Dwight Howard was a Laker, and I totally understand that. He came in, and there was such high expectations. That team was, especially because I remember that was the offseason. The Lakers acquired Dwight Howard and Steve Nash to pair with Metta World Peace, Kobe Bryant, and Pau Gasol. That was kind of the formulation of their starting five that year, and it was a ridiculous starting five on paper. Now, a lot of injuries. The team was pretty old. There wasn't a lot of depth on that team. That season derailed fairly quickly, and Kobe just kind of put the team on his back and carried him as far as he could before his body broke down. And then there was just all the drama about, the reports that Dwight wanted Kobe amnestied, to, even consider re-signing with the Lakers. And, there was Kobe reportedly telling Dwight that he could teach him how to win. And I'm sure Dwight didn't take that very well, even though, I mean, what has Dwight actually won in his career? He did get to the finals in 2009 with that really fun Orlando Magic team, but they ran into the buzzsaw that was the 2009 Lakers, um, who obviously won the title that year over the Magic in 5 games. That season, I mean, I think for maybe forever, for at least a long time for a lot of Laker fans, it's left a bad taste in their mouth, and I totally understand that. Personally, I think I said this on the last episode. My disdain for Dwight went away after the very next season when the Rockets played the Portland Trailblazers in the first round, and Damian Lillard hit a game, or excuse me, a game winning and a series winning 3-pointer at the buzzer in that game 6. One of the most ridiculous game winners you'll ever see, and sent the Blazers into the next round and sent the Rockets home and ended their season. But at that moment, to me, that was kind of vindication. It was okay. You suffered this heartbreaking loss. That's kind of like that's what you get, kind of thing. After that, I've been honestly fine with Dwight. I mean, I get annoyed with hearing the same stories about the fresh start after fresh start. I think he's on like a seventh fresh start. He's bounced around to a number of teams um, since he left the Lakers. I mean, I think there's been 2 teams he didn't even play for. He was traded to Brooklyn, didn't play for them, and then now he's going to be traded to Memphis, and they're going to buy him out so that he can go to the Lakers. So, and there's been a lot of reports that there were teammates recently. I can't remember which team it was, but recently, maybe it was Charlotte or the Wizards. I can't remember. But teammates were thrilled when they found out that he was traded away from their team. So there's a lot of, I mean, there's a lot of stuff on Dwight not being a good teammate, immaturity issues, a lot of off-court stuff. So a lot of that is very, very concerning. And I get where a lot of Laker fans are coming from on that front. I mean, it's a legit concern. I'm concerned about it. And, you know, this move, there is risk that comes with this move. I've seen, because according to reports, this, I think it was Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN was reporting that this is a non-guaranteed deal. So the Lakers could cut Dwight Howard by any time before January 7th, and they pretty much shed the contract. They open up that roster space and can sign somebody else. So it is a fairly low risk deal because of that. If he starts acting up, then Lakers can just part ways and they can try and find somebody else. My main concern about this is, how is Dwight going to fit into the locker room? Apparently, he met with JaVale McGee, Rajon Rondo, and Anthony Davis. Apparently, that meeting helped reassure those 3 that Dwight will not be a disruption, and I think the term that was used in the report was that Dwight had hit rock bottom and had been humbled. And the Lakers have basically warned Dwight that if you disrupt this team, you're gonna get cut. You'll get let go. We'll find somebody else and bring him in. So one of my biggest concerns is, how willing is Dwight Howard going to be to buy into his role with this team, where he is probably going to come off the bench. I have a hard time envisioning him starting over JaVale McGee, especially because I think there was a lot of noise that JaVale was not happy with Ivica Zubac taking minutes from him, kind of later into the season before the trade deadline. And there was rumors, I don't know how true it is, that was a partial reason why Zubac got traded, was to kind of appease JaVale McGee. Like I said, I don't know how much of that is true, but there was a lot of noise about that. So I would assume that if JaVale was in this meeting with Dwight, that there's kind of an understanding that JaVale would be the starter, and Dwight would come off the bench. I would assume the 2 of them together would probably, I want to say, play, 35 to 40 minutes a night between the 2 of them. And you're still going to get Anthony Davis playing the five at some. You might get some spot minutes from LeBron playing the five. Um, they'll mix and match some lineups, and I doubt JaVale and LeBron or Dwight Howard will play the full 48. Um, but I'm really curious to see how Dwight Howard buys into his role with this team, because it's different for him. I mean, and it's tough for those guys that used to be superstars, right? And now they have to kind of, be humbled and accept that they're not what they once were. Dwight Howard in 2008, 2009, 2010, that stretch was the best center in the league. He was a legit, I mean, he was a legit all star, probably superstar player. I mean, he was really, really good and just a legitimate force in the league. I mean, he was the best player for that Magic team that went to the finals and beat LeBron in the Eastern Conference Finals that year. And yeah, I mean, he used to be insanely good. I mean, there was a reason why so many Laker fans were ecstatic when the Lakers pulled off that trade to pair him with Kobe, um, Powell, and Steve Nash. Um, I mean, it was a blockbuster deal, and everybody thought this is the next great Laker big man. I mean, that's how good he was back then. Now he is, I still think he's a quality player, but he's obviously not once what he once was. He's dealt with a lot of injuries. He's had back problems. He's had some shoulder problems. He only played 9 games this past season with the Wizards because of injury. Um, so I mean, there's definitely some concerns there. His physical well being, and just there's just so many stories about him being a disruption in the locker room and being kind of focused about himself over the team. And so I'm a little skeptical that, because he's been that way for quite a while now, probably, I mean, close to the last decade, I would say. um he's just kind of been a problem in that area. Now, will that change next to, LeBron, Anthony Davis, like, I mean, veterans like Rajon Rondo, you know go down the line, and the fact that this is probably Dwight's last chance, I would think. If this flames out and this goes poorly, I just don't see any team wanting to deal with him. I think he had been traded because, I mean, sometimes there's just value in trading contracts, and you know he doesn't have to deal with that anymore. He's being bought out, so this is basically a minimum deal for the Lakers. And if this flames out, I don't know if there's an avenue for Dwight to keep playing in the NBA. Like, this is his last chance. He's really got to buy into his role. He's got to just be a team player, and he's got to put his ego aside and understand he's not that star that he once was, and he's just got to fill his role. He's got to defend. He's got to rebound. He's got to set good screens. That's probably my biggest thing with him. In his first stint with the Lakers for that one season in 2012, 2013, he didn't set screens. He wouldn't set screens, and Mike D'Antoni runs a very pretty heavy pick and roll half court offense when they do play in the half court, and he just would not set screens, and it drove me crazy because he has this big strong body, and he should be an amazing screen setter, and he just didn't. He pretty much just refused to do it and wouldn't make contact. He just kind of get in the way. Um, so he's got to buy into his role. I'm going to say that probably 100 times between now and game one of the regular season, but he has to understand what is needed of him, and if he's serious about winning, he'll do it. Um, but there's just so much past history that kind of shows otherwise, I guess. That there's reason to be skeptical that he's not going to buy in, and that he's going to have those nights where he's focused on, I need to be fed the ball in the post, right? Like, I need touches on offense and this stuff, and it's like his best role now is going to be a guy that he has to defend, he has to protect the paint, protect the rim. He needs to rebound the basketball, bring a physical presence down around down low and in the paint. And on offense, he's got to set screens, and he's got to finish plays when they're presented to him. The offense is not going to run through him, and he needs to understand that. He's got to, realize his touches are going to be, when his man leaves to go help, and the Lakers can dump it off to him for an easy bucket. Um, or he's diving to the basket, and the Lakers, get it to him on the run, on the move, going towards the rim, and he can, try and use his athleticism and his big body to try and finish in the paint. So, you know, that's the biggest concern. Will he buy into that, and will he be fully committed to that? Um, it's tough for those guys. I mean, we see it with Carmelo Anthony. I think the reason Carmelo isn't on a team to me at least, isn't because he's a bad player. He's obviously not what he was back, 10 years ago. But I think it's for him, it's more so, it's less of a talent issue, and it's more of a unwillingness to adapt to a role. In his mind, he's still this elite scorer that, can score over everybody and needs plenty of touches on offense and wants to ISO, play ISO ball and all this stuff. We saw it, I think, at the end of his run with Oklahoma City, when he was asked about the possibility of coming off the bench and being like a 6-man type player, I think was the question. And he laughed at the question, like legit laughed at the question, that there's, the idea that he would come off the bench. So um, Dwight can't do that. Like, Dwight cannot do that here. He has to understand it's going to be probably a fairly limited role, and he's just got to go in and do what's asked of him. And that's that. If he's serious about winning, he'll do it. If he's, serious about, just playing well individually, then he's probably going to do that, and he's probably going to be a disruption, and the Lakers will probably move on. Another concern I have with this is kind of becoming a trend now with the Lakers in signing guys with character concerns off the court. Dwight has had a lot of stuff come up about him really in the last 10 years or so. And, you know, looking back on the last few years, I mean, the Lakers signed Lance Stevenson, and he had kind of the past domestic violence issue, and Avery Bradley has had similar off-court issues. Rondo had the issue a number of years ago where he used a homophobic slur at I can't remember the referee's name, but he is a gay referee. And so I mean, there's a lot of that stuff going on lately, and this kind of is just kind of adds on to it, adding Dwight Howard, a guy that's had character issues. And um it's a little concerning. It's a little concerning because I think ideally you want your team to be filled with a lot of high character guys, and guys that'll play hard, that'll play unselfishly, and put the team ahead of their own individual desires. That ultimately, I think that's what makes a championship team. Okay, I mean, like I said, there are plenty of concerns, I think, with signing Dwight, and the fans that are upset, I totally understand where you're coming from. I really do. But I do think there are positives to bringing in Dwight Howard to this team. One is the upside. If he does buy into his role, Dwight Howard is still a serviceable NBA player. Like I keep saying, he's not what he used to be back in Orlando. But looking at, so his last full season, obviously this past season, 2018-2019, only played 9 games due to injury with the Wizards. But the year before that, he started and played in 81 games for the Charlotte Hornets, averaged 16.6 points per game and 12.5 rebounds, 1.6 blocks per game. Let's see. Field goal percentage, shot 55% from the field. Free throw shooting is an issue. I guess that would go back to my concerns. He probably won't be able to finish games because of the free throw shooting. I mean, the Lakers back in 2009 benefited from that in Game 4. Kind of helped them stay in the game and force overtime and win that game and go up 3-1 in that series. But Dwight's not going to be a guy I think that can be trusted down the stretch because of the free throw shooting, and that's fine because I think the Lakers are ultimately going to be at their best closing games with Anthony Davis at center and probably LeBron at the four, and I would imagine Kuzma at the three. Um, but yeah, I do still think that Dwight Howard is a very serviceable player. Like I said, last full season, 16 points, 12 rebounds a game, 1.6 blocks. He's going to contest shots at the basket. And from what I had heard about Dwight's workout with the Lakers, is that he really what got him this position is that he looked very, very good physically. He looks like he's fully healed from his surgery that he had last season, and he looked very, very good physically, and showed a lot of that bounce that we've seen from him in the past. And um, there's been the report that he came in. He's lost some weight, so he's in good playing shape. I feel like we hear that about just about every player that's trying to get onto a team, um, but so you take that for what it's worth. But I had heard as well that he came in fantastic shape. He looked great physically. There was a lot of the like I said, like the bounce that we're used to seeing with him, the leaping ability and all that, the shot blocking ability. Um, so that's encouraging. Um, and like I said, if he buys into his role and he really commits to this thing, he can really impact, I think, a winning team coming off the bench and anchoring that second unit defensively and really committing to that would be a huge positive for this team. And if you get that on a minimum deal, that's great. Um, and if he, if like I said, if he understands that this is probably his last chance and he buys in, he puts the team first, and he's a positive on the court, then that's a win. I don't think he's going to have the impact that DeMarcus Cousins would have had because DeMarcus Cousins I think was poised to have a really good year with the second year coming off of that Achilles surgery, and he'd have a full. I thought, at the time that he was going to have a full off season to recover. His skill set fit really well because he can shoot the ball, he can create, and all that stuff. But I do think that Dwight can have a fairly substantial impact on this team. So, not willing to just count him out just yet. I'm going to give him a chance. Like I said, I'm probably a little more optimistic about this than most Laker fans are. I think a lot of people are just done with him. And, like I said, I don't blame you. I really don't. There's just been a long list of things to really make people believe that. And um but, this is a new situation for him. He gets a second chance in LA, and, you know, honestly, he'll probably I still think he'll probably get booed on opening night, or like his first Laker home game, which I mean, I guess opening night is going to be in Staples Center anyways, but um, yeah, I mean he's going to have to really show it on the court, I think, to win fans over. But we're going to find out a lot about his mental toughness at this point, because, like I said, his own fan base probably isn't going to be supporting him too much. But I'm willing to give him a chance because I think he can have an impact on this team. And um, trying to look at kind of like the best case scenario here, where he's in good shape athletically, and he's able to defend at a high level, rebound the basketball, and finish shots around the basket when they're created for him by the likes of LeBron, Anthony Davis, and so on and so forth. So all right. Well, that is going to do it for us this time. Either next week's episode or the week after. I'm going to try and do this once every month. I'm going to do a mailbag episode. So follow me on Twitter at Gary Kester. You can also put comments in or questions in the comments below here on YouTube, and I will use those for the mailbag podcast, which, like I said, will either be next week or the week after. I'll try to do one every month. They'll probably be a little easier during the season, but still going to do it, especially since preseason is really kind of a month away now. So, all right, that's going to do it. Like I said at the start of this podcast, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. to UCast Studios and Lakers Outsiders on YouTube. And for all your Lakers Outsiders content, you can find it on LakersOutsiders.com. Follow on Twitter at Lakers Outsiders, and then like on Facebook. And the podcasts are always on YouTube, iTunes, Podbean, and Spotify. So be sure to check it out there. And fingers crossed that Dwight is a changed man. If not, one more thing, I guess, before I sign off, is kind of going back to the risk factor here. Wanted to just throw this in before I sign off. I know because the contract is non-guaranteed that there's minimal risk because the Lakers can just cut him before January 7th and there's no cap ramifications. There is opportunity cost there, though, if it extends into a certain point of the season and say it doesn't work out and the Lakers cut him, but Joakim Noah isn't available anymore. Say he's picked up by somebody else. Say Aaron Baines gets picked up by somebody. All these options get picked up elsewhere, or they're just not available. There is an opportunity cost there, so there is risk, even though it's a minimum deal, non-guaranteed. There's still some risk there that the Lakers are taking. That's why I personally would have preferred Joakim Noah, just because it's probably a safer bet. But I think they believe in the upside that Dwight can bring in this role if he's committed and he plays to the level that they think he's capable of. So just wanted to get that in before I sign off. And it's going to do it. Get those questions in. And like I said, either next week or the week after, I will dedicate an off-season pod to answering your questions. They can be about the Lakers. They can be about anything that's random. They could be food questions. I don't even care. TV questions, whatever. I like random questions. So get those in and make sure to like, comment, subscribe. And that'll do it for us this time. And I will see you guys next week.